Greetings, this is Vane and welcome to a new Let's Play for my channel. This is Avernum. Well, this is more a replay for a previously abandoned Let's Play, but you know what I mean. Anyway, let's just dive straight in. Avernum is the first game in the Avernum franchise by Spiderweb Software and was based on a previous game, Exile, and Avernum itself has received a remake in recent years, but this is the original with the Phil Foglio art, and still one of my favourite turn-based CRPGs. So we're going to go ahead with the starting party. We have a soldier, a rebel, a cleric, and a sorcerer. We're going to make a few. We're going to make a few changes. So, for example, Philip. It's mostly because we have traits down here. We'll go through them later. But for now, just want to turn off the elite warrior. And you're the other one as well, I believe, the natural mage traits. So basically, we don't get a bonus, we don't get a penalty, we're all done. There's a lot of reading to be done in Avernum. Okay, so I thought I would read the various types so you know what they are. Okay. Soldier, we have Philip. Soldiers received excellent military training on the surface, the best the Empire had to offer. They're very good with all sorts of weapons. So they're your basic warrior type. Character class. It's worth noting that basically these are starting templates. You can advance in any of the skills in any way that you want to. So if you want to decide to give your soldier magical training, you can. If you want to turn your rogue into having some cleric spells, you can. You know, you could do whatever you want. These are just starting profiles, and we will get to those starting profiles in a minute. Okay. Alternatively, you have the Berserker. Berserkers are wild swordsmen from the remote areas of the Empire. Their wildness tends to get them dumped into Avernum. They're extremely hardy and their sword skill is unmatched. Okay, we have a Cleric. A Cleric is a priest in one of the faiths disapproved of by the Empire. They have excellent healing and protective skills, although they often end up having to use them in Avernum. So, a Cleric is, as it says, is a priest, and unlike say D&D, although you can build them to be quite tough and sturdy, they are not necessarily so, although priest magic can be used while wearing armor. Rosalia is our priest. We have sorcerer. Sorcerers are practitioners of the wizardly arts. Their spells are powerful both on offence and defence. Alas, because of their dangerous research and eccentricities, they tend to be sent down to Avernum. So you may be noticing a theme here with people getting sent down to Avernum. Hence the name of the game, and there will be more of that in the intro. But sorcerers are like magic users or wizards, except you use spell points, and they're unlike clerics and other priests, their spells cannot be cast wearing armour unless you have the natural mage talent, which we turn off. And that was one of the reasons why we turned it off. Okay. Rogue. Rogues are nimble, good with swords, and able to handle locks and traps. They also tend to walk off with things they don't own. Unsurprisingly, the Empire loves to send them to Avernum. Okay. Archers were either hunters or trained members of the Empire Army, highly skilled with missile weapons. In the Empire Army, a dishonourable discharge tends to mean exile into Avernum. Then we have rebels. Some people dare to rebel against the Empire. They have to be good at everything if they want to survive, although they don't have the freedom to excel at one thing. A rebel tends to have some skill with weapons, traps and lore. Now Melissa is a rebel, and they're slightly more generalised than either a rogue or an archer. So they're like the mix between the two, highly dexterous, okay in combat with missile weapons, and having a high level of tool use for dealing with traps. Hedge Wizard. Hedge Wizard lives in the remote villages of the Empire, where they help the locals with their magical skills. This sort of character is good at magery, has a bit of training in priest spells, and has a bit of practice making potions. So they're a wider form of magic user with access to both priest and mage skills, but not as much expertise in either, and also does potions and all, but doesn't really do much else. Finally, we have shamans. Shamans are the priests of the back hills. A shaman isn't quite as good at spells as a cleric, but makes up for it with weaponry and knowledge of herbs. Shamans are hardy folk, but their wildness tends to make them run afoul of the Empire. So a shaman is more like your warrior cleric that you'd see in D&D. And then finally we have custom classes. Skilled Avernum players can make their own custom characters. Custom characters start with 60 skill points you can allocate to make your ideal adventurers. Now, we're not going to start with a custom. We are going to... The starting party is balanced enough, to be honest, for what we're going to be doing. You have a soldier to be your kind of warrior tank. You have a rebel to deal with who's good at ranged combat but can deal with traps as well. And she even has a little bit of potion use just in case something happens to the party and you need some quick healing. You have Rosalia, who's a cleric who's basically good at pre-spells and healing. So she's your general defensive spellcaster, healer type character. And then we have Mycroft, our sorcerer, who is basically the mage with the Arcane Law, and he's our primary potion character. Is our primary potion creator. And although we did turn off natural mage, so he won't be as heavily armoured if we want to use the high level spells. We'll go over the characters in a minute, but I thought we would just dive straight into the game and just find out what this is about, because the whole point is we're exploring Avernum. So, what is Avernum? You are never going to see sunlight again. You will never breathe fresh air, or be warm, or feel safe. That is your punishment. For your crimes, you are to be thrown into a magical portal and banished to Avernum, never to return. What was your crime? Not what you might think. Not murder, or arson, or crimes against other people. No, your crime was against the Empire, ruled by the cruel Emperor Hawthorne. You spoke out against an unjust law, or you angered some politician, or you may just have been a misfit. Not being able to fit in is a crime in the Empire. Thus, you are being sent to Avernum. It is not a different land. After all, the Empire controls the entire surface of the world. All 4 continents have completely submitted to its rule. No, Avernum is a series of caverns, far below the surface of the world. It is a dark, subterranean prison, a place where exiles like yourselves spend the rest of their lives, far from the light. What is it like there? Nobody on the surface knows. All they know is that it is dark and unpleasant, and that it is a place to be regarded only with fear. Some people believe that there is no air, warmth or food, and death comes with merciful speed. Others believe that there is enough food to enable Avernites to endure a miserable worm-like existence, until of course the monsters get you. And a few believe that Avernum is a paradise, a subterranean land of pleasure and relief, and of freedom from the Empire's iron rule. People mad enough to believe Avernum is paradise soon end up there themselves. They don't really know what it is like. Nobody on the surface does, but soon you will. There is no appeal to the judge's decision. Early one morning, in a low stone building far from any city, you are taken to the teleporter. You breathe clean, fresh air one last time. Then they throw you in. Okay, and this is Avernum. So, we have the main screen. Just in case we forgot what we were playing, there's Avernum bordered over the top. We have the date, the year, where we are, which is currently in Fort Avernum. We have our status screen, and basically all the things that we can do. We have the inventory and the auto map. There we go. We don't know much because we haven't explored it. And we have, basically we can swap character order, and we have character info. So let's go over what our characters can do and start organising the party before we move on. Okay. Now, I could have spent some skill points because every character starts with 5 free skill points. And I could have tinkered them with the character while we were removing our character traits, but I figured in order to show off how training works in game, we'll keep those skill points and we'll use them when we get to somewhere where we can train, because even though you gain experience and level up, and upon doing so you gain skill points, you don't actually get the benefit of those skill points until you actually spend the time training. Health and other aspects you do get bonuses for. You do get bonuses when you level up. I think health is the only one that goes up by level. So you do get more health when you level up. But other than that, without training, nothing else goes up. And here we can see the amazing art by Phil Fogel. Quite famous for old school role-playing games. He had a column in Dragon magazine back in the day. And yeah, basically he has a very fun and unique art style, which you can tell it's him straight away. But enough about the art and how things are going. Let's talk about how characters are done. Basically we have 4 main characteristics: strength, dexterity, intelligence and endurance. These form the core of your character in so many different ways. I mean, strength is as we can see handily over here, is how muscular you are. Influences how much you can carry and how much damage your blows do in combat. Having more of this skill is a great benefit to warriors. We have dexterity, is how fast you are on your feet. Helps you act sooner in combat, hit more often with melee and missile weapons, and be less likely to be hit by foes. Warriors and archers are greatly improved by more of this skill. Okay, we have intelligence. How good you are at thinking things out and solving problems. A character with high intelligence will have more effective spells and more spell points available to cast them. And finally we have endurance. Measures how hardy you are. The more endurance you have, the more health points you'll have, and the less poison and other afflictions will affect you. Also helps you resist harmful magic. Now these are probably amongst the most expensive of the basic skills. I think the only of all the skills together, because they will round out your character. And you'll see for Philip, as a warrior we have endurance, dexterity and strength, that's relatively higher. We have 5 points of endurance, so we're quite tough, and we've got strength and dexterity. We've got very low intelligence. We've got the basic of 1 because we don't need to use intelligence. And as we go through our other characters, you'll see that they have slightly different stats. That's worth noting that dexterity is what's used to be able to hit in combat rather than strength, although strength does play a part for melee weapons, and we'll see that under weaponry skills. So it's a slightly different from, say, Dungeons and Dragons. Now our weaponry skills are basically not just weapons, but in fact all of our combat skills. We have melee weapons, which is your base chance of hitting with a melee weapon, such as a sword or hammer. In combat, the base is 30 plus 5% for each level of melee weapon skill you have. Okay, so we have 6 levels of melee weapons. Now it's worth noting that the base value of the skill is strength plus dexterity divided by 3. So as we improve our strength and dexterity, our melee weapon skill goes up. So we can work out that we have strength and dexterity added together is 8, divided by 3 makes that 2, and because you have to round down rather than rounding up, that means we've got a base melee weapon skill of 2, and then we've put 4 more skill points into it. Now the skill points, the 4 more levels into it, the levels that we've purchased with skill points directly, they will never change. We'll always have +4 with melee weapons above our base. It's just that as you increase your strength and dexterity, in the case of Philip, it'll be primarily strength, because that also helps us carry the heaviest armor and most of the stuff we'll need. Then we'll get more melee weapon skill as well. But at the moment, our skill to hit with melee weapons is actually 6 times 5%, which is 30% plus 30%. So we've got a 60% chance to hit. And that is the attacking half of combat. That's pretty much how it's done. We also have pole weapons. Your chance of hitting with a spear or similar weapon in combat is 30% plus 5 for each level of spear skill you have. It's exactly the same as melee weapons, except it's slightly more expensive to train, but slightly cheaper. And we have 1 less level in pole weapons than we do in melee weapons. So we're going to be focusing on swords and stuff. Okay. Then we have bows. Bows is your chance of hitting in combat with bows and crossbow weapons. Now, the base for this is 40% plus 5% for each level. Now, we've only got 2, so we've got 50% chance to hit with bows. And the base is dexterity divided by 2. Now, as we've got a dexterity of 4, that means that we've not put any points into bows yet. So we're only going off our basic. You have a similar situation with throw missiles, which is basically rocks and javelins. Same chance to hit. We get slightly better at throw missiles because we've put in one skill point and 1 level in. Okay, hardiness. Now, hardiness acts like natural armor. Each level of hardiness has a chance of reducing damage from enemy weapons by 1. The base value of the skill is strength divided by 4. So, We have 1 from our base strength, and then we put in another 2 levels. So we can have a chance of reducing damage by up to 3 points, which is pretty cool. So you can see that we're going with kind of tankiness. With defense helps you avoid the blows of enemies, and it actually reduces your chance of hitting you in melee. Now this is based off dexterity. We have 1, we put 2 points in for a total of 3, so we have a 12% chance of reducing we have a 12% reduction to be hit in melee combat. So, well, say we were attacking ourselves or someone like us, we would have a 60% chance to hit minus the 12% chance from our 3 points of defense, ultimately resulting in a grand total of 48% chance to hit in melee. Finally, we have assassination. Very expensive, and we do not have any base skills, any base to that, but it's the ability to strike damaging blows, so you get extra damage in combat. Now, as opposed to being strength, this is more like being able to get a critical hit or a backstab, so it's to do with finesse, but it's not really done by anything else. Now, then we have, that's our combat skills. Then we have our magical skills. These all deal with spell casting. The ability to cast Mage Spells is your Mage Spells ability. The higher the level, the more spells you are capable of casting, and the more effective they are. Now, each spell has a base value of Mage Spell skill needed to cast it, and we'll look at them later. And it also goes towards how many spell points we have as well, as you will see later. Pre-spells does exactly the same, but with pre-spells, exactly just like Mage Spells, there is a minimum pre-spell level to cast each spell. Okay, Arcane Law. This is how familiar you are with magic law. This is needed to decode writing and spells. The more of this in your group is better, but it can be spread for your entire party, so you don't have to give it to one person. But since its base value is intelligence divided by 2, chances are that your intelligent characters like your mage and your priest are going to be, your mage and your cleric, etc., are going to have more arcane law. Finally, we have potion making. Used for making potions. For a character to use a recipe, his or her potion making skill must be high enough. You roll it, have a chance to succeed, and recipes have a certain minimum potion making skill before you can even learn the recipe. You only need 1. We are lucky enough that we have 2 because we have Melissa as a kind of backup, and you'll see that in a minute. And the base value for this will be intelligence divided by 4. So once again, it's going to be your mage and your priest characters that are going to be probably focusing on potion making. Finally, we have useful skills. Here we have various other skills that are useful in adventuring but are not necessarily to do with magic or combat. We have tool use, which is how good you are at working with simple mechanical devices, for example picking locks and disarming traps. We only need 1 character because the best score in your party will be used, and that will go to Melissa, who is our rebel, and the base value for that is dexterity divided by 2. So Philip, who has Dexterity of 4, already has 2 points in tool use. Don't really need any more. We have Cave Law. How much you know about finding your way through the wilderness. Helps you avoid outdoor wandering monsters and navigate through difficult situations. Base value, intelligence divided by 4. Now this is in exploring the underworld. We don't our intelligence is very low, but we put a few points in Cave Law anyway. And then we have First Aid. You can use the First Aid skill in the action screens to heal wounded characters. More skills gives more healing. If the skill is low, you may do harm. The base value is intelligence divided by 4. So we have some very basic First Aid training, because we put 2 points into it. It's worth noting that at this point we're not going to be very good at healing, but it's a good way of healing without needing to use magic points. So, and it's something that you can do outside of combat, so you can kind of your priest can kind of conserve magic that way. So it's more likely that our priest will have First Aid. I think Melissa does, while it's Mycroft that has potion making. Finally, we have Luck. Okay, the base value of this skill is 0. There is nothing that modifies that, and this helps you whenever something random happens. Which is often. When your luck is high, I think will go better for your character. So putting points in luck basically makes everything easier. You are luckier, you get better effects. But although it's essentially free to train, it costs a lot of skill points. And then we have special skills which we've not discovered yet. So we can see down here other bits. We have the coins for the party, the skill points for our character, i.e. Philip. Everyone starts with 5, our level, our experience, and when we get our next level. Finally, have your reputation for the party, which is currently neutral at 10. Over here we have various panels which show various other bits about our character. Firstly, we have useful skills. These are basically your derived characteristics based off of your actual skills. So even though it's listed as actual skills, we don't have a health skill, it's a health characteristic. And health measures how much damage you can take before you die. To increase this, buy more endurance. Your health total is roughly equal to half your level times your endurance. Yeah, it's very roughly, because I believe you get a bonus of about I think you get a bonus of about 8 or 9 points to start off with, but other than that it literally goes up based on your level and your endurance. As it says, there's a very, very archaic, very complicated formula for it that I've never managed to memorize, but it's worth noting. Okay, spell energy. Now everybody has spell energy because it is based off intelligence, and everyone starts with 1 point of intelligence. Your spell energy is used up when casting spells. The more you have, the more spells you can cast. Your maximum number of spell points is 4 times the combined total of your intelligence, your mage skill, and your priest skill. So, for your spellcasters, you're going to get more as they gain levels in their magic skills, as well as from intelligence. So but it also means that because everyone starts with at least 1 point in intelligence, that even though people who can't cast spells will have at least 4 points of spell energy, Not that it matters, because without spells you can't use it. We have poison resistance. Helps you resist the effects of poison. Each level increases your chance of resisting a poison attack by 5%. The base value of this skill is endurance plus luck plus hardiness divided by 2. So that is endurance, of which we've got 5, luck, which we've got 0, and hardiness divided by 2, of which, so you've got 3 hardness divided by 2, rounded down is 1, which gives us 6, giving us a total of 30% chance to resist poison. So we're quite tough. Philip is quite tough. Magic resistant helps you resist magical attacks. Each level increases your chance of resisting magic by 5%. Base chance of the skill is luck plus mage skill divided by 2. And there are other special skills we can find that can do that as well. We don't have any magic resistance because we don't have any luck, and we don't have any mage spell skill point levels in here. Okay, but that's basically to resist all magic. Okay, so if a spell is cast on us, this is our chance to generally resist that spell. It's worth noting that this is separate from willpower, which is to resist effects like charm and other mind affecting abilities, and resist elements, which resists elemental attacks as well, which includes magical spell attacks. And so going back to willpower, helps you resist the effects of mind clouding attacks like charming. Each level increases your chance of resisting these attacks by 5%. The base value of this skill is intelligence plus mage skill divided by 2 plus pre-skill divided by 2 plus luck. So we get the default 1 from our intelligence. Everything else is 0, which gives us a 5% chance. So we do not resist charming very well. As you can see, your magic users are more likely to have much more in the way of willpower. We have resist elements. Helps you resist the effects of elemental attacks like fire and cold. Each level increases your chance of resisting them by 5%. The base value of the skill is dexterity divided by 4, hardiness divided by 2, plus luck. So we have 1 point from dexterity and 1 point from hardiness. As you increase your strength and your hardiness goes up, because hardiness is based off of strength, your resist elements will slowly go up. But the primary way to avoid elements is through increasing your dexterity, which is much more. I mean, if you look at the way hardiness works, if we go back, hardiness is strength divided by 4, and it's half that, so it's actually, so what we're seeing in resist elements is actually strength divided by 8. So then finally we have item law. Item law helps you identify items you find on your travels. If there is enough of this in your party, items you find will become identified. So it's a shared skill from everyone. The base is intelligence divided by 2 plus mage divided by 2 plus arcane law. So we don't have any for Philip. Finally, we have rune reading. Okay, helps you understand strange runes and writings you find on your journeys. The more of this in your group, the better. The base value of the skill is intelligence divided by 2, priest divided by 2, plus arcane law. So you'll notice that items comes under mage skills, but rune reading comes under priest skills. So they're likely to be specialists in either of those, and we'll see that in a minute. In fact, so these buttons down here, we will look at our other characters so we can get a rough idea of what they're good at. As you can see, Philip is pretty good in melee and has some hardiness and defense. and with some thrown missiles. So he's basically going to be a sort of melee tank, and we're probably going to specialise in strength for him. We move to Melissa, who's our rebel, and you'll see there's a slight change in some of what's going on over here in the useful skills. Sorry, frog in my throat from too much reading. Yeah, but same basic stats as Philip, but we're going to focus her on dexterity because she is also good primarily with swords, but she has bows and throw missile weapons, and she's actually put points into that. So if we look, I mean, dexterity divided by 2, so that's 2 points in bows, and whereas there's only put basically a few points in melee weapons and pole weapons, hardly any. I think that's just the basic, maybe 1 if we're lucky. She has some hardiness from strength, but that's not been improved, and she hasn't improved her defense, but that's probably, but as our dexterity goes up, defense will improve over time. She has most of her skills though. She has a point of luck, and she has 6 points in tool use. So, of which 2 are from her base skill. So she's basically going to be our tool user, rogue, ranged attacker. We will give her probably a melee weapon as well to focus in. That will go up slowly as we increase her dexterity. And we will look at things like defense, possibly, and she has and assassination, because she has a point in assassination, so she can deal extra damage, but it's a chance. So it's like having an extra like maybe 5% chance of doing a critical hit. She has 2 points in potion making, which is okay, and that comes basically, she's put the 2 points in there because that would come from intelligence, but she hasn't got any because it's not necessary for everything else. In fact, dexterity being tool use, basically cave law and first aid. She put some points into first aid as well, just in case. Again, maybe you might consider them to be wasted points. You can certainly play around and create some new interesting characters, which can focus on those if you want through the custom or other balanced. But as it says, a rebel has to be pretty much good at everything. So, and because of the cost, rather than put points straight up in intelligence, they've bulked out in the skills that they might need. Okay. This also means that health-wise, Melissa is roughly as healthy as Philip. That will probably change, possibly as we go on. Most of the resistance, except that point of luck, means that all except the poison resistance for resistances have gone up by 1 point. The poison resistance stays the same because Melissa doesn't have the 2 points in hardiness needed to get a bonus point in poison resistance. Like Philip, she doesn't have much in item law and rune reading. We could always put some stuff into arcane law if we really needed to round her out in that regard. Okay. Then we have Rosalia. Now, Rosalia, she's more run-of-the-mill with basics in strength, dexterity and intelligence of 3, and her primary ability is endurance, which is a 5. So so we've gone to make her tough. I mean, she's not very good on the skills. She hasn't put anything in. She's slightly better with some base at intelligence-based skills for some of the useful skills. So she has, for example, well, she hasn't quite got she's got some skills in first aid. She's close to getting some extra skills as intelligence goes up, but she does not have as many spell points as someone who's focused on intelligence. She's basically all about surviving. With melee weapons, she has Arcane Law, of which she has 1 point in a bonus, and she has 4 levels in pre-spells. So you can see where her focus is going. In fact, it's because pre-spells aren't based on intelligence. It's pretty much where she's gone for some strength, dexterity, and endurance as well. That's why she's got a cost on intelligence as a cleric, to be able to, so that she could get some of the other skills and some of the other abilities. Finally, we have, I mean, if you look over here, you'll see her willpower is quite good and her poison resistance is quite good, but she has fairly good item law and rune reading, 5 and 7 respectively. We're going to go to Mycroft next, which you can see Mycroft has weak strength and dexterity, less endurance than the rest of the party, so he's actually got 2 hit points less, and you'll see that. But he has specialised in intelligence, which has given him a basic point in the intelligence based skills down here, and as well as 1 point in potion making, which we put in I think 3 extra points by working it out. We have 4 levels of Mage Spells and 4 levels in Arcane Law. So that gives us Item Law of 9 and Rune Reading of 7. So basically quite similar, more intelligent based build. We have some magic resistance as well from knowing magic, so that's pretty good. So you can sort of see where we're going with each. We'll probably give Mycroft throw missiles. You put a couple of points into that, on top of the one he's already got, and we'll probably keep not really melee weapons, basic, something like that. Okay, back to Philip and some of the other screens we got, because this episode is going to be mostly about talking about our characters and preparing to set off. So, character traits. Now we don't have any character traits, but character traits are basically ways to provide bonuses or penalties to your character to redefine what they can do. But in doing so, if you get bonus abilities, they give you a experience penalty, so it takes you longer to level up. And if you take penalties, you gain experience faster, assuming you could survive the issues of having the penalties, which are really obnoxious. But it's a way of doing hard mode, or super hard mode if you really want to. Just a brief look at some of the character traits we could have had. I mean, we took off the traits that we wanted because we didn't want any XP modifiers. So we took off Elite Warrior for Philip and Natural Mage for Mycroft. We could have had Great Renown. You are well known on the surface, well known enough that your fame has even spread to Avernum. You'll receive a bonus to your reputation, and certain special encounters will be easier for you. Okay, we have, and this is a good one would have been a good one for Melissa, is you have a natural aptitude for tools, traps and delicate machinery of all sorts. You receive a bonus whenever you have to deal with these sorts of objects. So that's essentially a bonus to tool use. Beastmaster. Many animals have taken a liking to you, to the extent that they will follow you and help you. Every day you can summon one beast to fight in your defense. The higher your level, the better the creature. We have Strong Will. Certain creatures in Avernum will attempt to use their clever magical powers to cloud your mind. Fortunately, when you have this ability, you are much more likely to resist this trickery. So that's improving your willpower score. Good education. Before you were banished to Avernum, you received the best education the surface world had to offer. You are much more likely to be able to handle situations which require lots of knowledge, such as decoding magical runes. And that means that basically your rune reading score goes up. And rune reading is important because some of the most powerful hidden versions of the spells you can't actually buy, but you have to find in the game. And for that you need a certain score in rune reading. Toughness. Another good one for Philip. Your body is resilient and your constitution is unusually strong. You are less likely to take serious damage in hostile situations, and disease and poison will have less of an effect on you. So that's poison resistance and basically your degree improved hardiness skill, more or less. It's worth noting that these traits add to your skill but don't actually change the values of your skill, because costs are based on skill level and how many points you've put into it. So, and these, for example, all these costs of skill points are all based on how many levels we've previously spent in that skill. Okay, fast on feet. You are very fleet of foot and your reaction time is amongst the best. You will act more quickly in combat, and sometimes you'll receive bonus action points. So you can do more and you will probably go earlier in a turn. Now, this is an important one for Mycroft that we took off. Some people learn magic. For you, it's a natural skill, as ingrained as walking and breathing. All of your spells receive bonuses, and you can cast Mage Spells even while wearing encumbering armour. Basically, if you wear armour, and it's literally just body armour that provides a penalty to hits, you cannot cast spells above level 6, which or I think it's 6, could be slightly lower. Basically, we'll come to that, but basically it's anything that's as powerful or higher than ice lances. So if you want to have a few basic spells, you could go without that. If you want to make sure you go with a mage warrior, you might want to put natural mage on just to make it a little bit tougher. So that you can still tank while in combat, while wearing heavy armor, and still be able to cast spells. Finally, Elite Warrior. You were trained in the ways of war almost from birth. When other children were learning to walk, you were learning to hold a knife. You receive bonuses in combat, and these bonuses increase as you gain levels. So that's a bonus to hits in pretty much every situation. And you can see that was probably why it was recommended for Philip, but we've turned it off. Then we have Divinely Touched. A touch of divine blood flows in your veins. You have several special abilities, each of which can be used once per day. Small wonder that one as strong as you made the Empire nervous enough to send you to Avernum. And that gives you the ability to basically cure, and to basically, it gives you some very basic priest abilities, such as summoning spirits to aid you, to cure, to heal wounds, and to cure poison as natural abilities. The next 5 are the penalties, and like I said, these are really obnoxious. Okay, cursed at birth. A wizard took a dislike to your parents. You were cursed when you were born. Through no fault of your own, you will sometimes receive penalties to your actions, and some magical effects will harm you more. Basically, cursed at birth reduces your luck, is the best way of putting it. It's like you can still spend points in luck to overcome being cursed at birth, but it means you start with negative luck. Sickness prone. You are a sickly child, and this frailty has plagued you even in adulthood. Disease, poison, and similar afflictions have more effect on you. So it's like having reduced hardiness for poison, disease, and other afflictions. Sluggish, you are slow on your feet and your reaction time is poor at best. You'll receive less action points in combat, and your turn to act will come later than normal. So it's like an inversed fast on feet, or basically having reduced dexterity, you could say. Brittle bones. On the surface, there is a tragic condition which causes all who suffer it to have very brittle bones. You are counted amongst its victims. Going into melee is a very bad idea. The blows of the enemy will be devastating. Basically, that's a penalty to hardiness for defense, in that you take more damage in combat. Although it says melee, in fact, it is any damage at all. So that is a hard one. Finally, you have completely inept. The adventure in life is a completely bad match for you. You freeze up when a creature attacks you. A slightest chill causes you to catch a cold. Enemy blows are devastating to you. You stumble a lot. Basically, it's like having all 4 curses in one. Yeah. It's completely obnoxious. It's like you are cursed at birth, you are sluggish, you have brittle bones, and you are sickness prone. All in one package. And you can combine it with other curses as well. So you could go completely inept and cursed at birth, and then just to see how far the character will get when you've got, like, I don't know, some ridiculous penalty to all your abilities right at the start. Okay. Next up we have special items. We haven't found any special items. These are items that appear in the game that are to do with quests. So they'll pop up here rather than we carry them in case we lose them. Similar thing with special abilities. If we gain special abilities, they're similar to the way you might have, say, skills, except they don't level up. And they all get listed under here. Okay, we're going to go to Mycroft because we're going to deal with potions. And as you can see, we start off, Mycroft starts with a potion level making of 4. And everybody starts off knowing how to make the first 2 potions. But you need at least a potion making skill of 1 to make the potion. So, we have a potion making skill of 4. And we know the recipes for the healing potion, which heals a basic amount of damage, and a curing potion, which alleviates the effects of poison and disease. We can learn the recipes for a hasting potion, which increases our actions each round if we need to. But we need an energy potion, which restores spell energy, and strength potion, which basically gives us a boost in combat. We can also eventually learn how to make grey mold salves, which is basically a cure all afflictions potion, but we need to improve our potion making for that. At the same time, we can also learn to make the Balm of Life, which we will need for the Raise Dead spell. After those basic potions and salves, we have elixirs. Now, these elixirs are basically stronger versions of the potions of the same name. So you have a healing elixir, hasting elixir, an energy elixir, and a strength elixir. You'll notice that we need a healing elixir can also be learned at level 5. So we won't quite know how to do that until we get to put some points in. Hasting is 6, energy is 8, and strength is also 8. Finally, we have 3 mighty brews. We have the Restoration Brew, which is heals all damage and cures all afflictions. We have Protection Brew, and then we have Heroic Brew, which basically turns us into an amazing fighting machine and is the highest. We need potion making of 12. So if we want to learn all the potions in the game, we are going to need at least a potion making of 12. We can go higher than 12, and anything higher than 12 basically grants us an extra chance to make the potions. Finally, we'll go Mage Spells. Mage Spells. Okay. Now, these first six spells, not levels, spells, are what you can cast even while wearing armor, without natural mage. And you start with the spells that you can cast from your spellcasting level. So, because we have 4 levels in mage spells, we can cast Bolt of Fire, which is our basic combat spell and basically deals fire damage to a single enemy. We have a light spell, which basically shows up the area when it's dark. You can see the area around us, basically revealing more of the map. It reveals more map on the screen, so because you get the fog of war, the bits you can't see. At level 2, we've learnt Call Beast, which allows us to summon a single monster to aid us. We also learn Bind Foe, which allows us to basically prevent foes from moving. How easy it is to break the binding depends on the level of this spell, and each spell can be cast in 3 levels. You start when you first learn the spell, you get the first level, which is one of these dots. You can buy up to level 2, so you can have up to 2 dots. And then there is a 3rd level which can be found and is the highest version of that spell. In this case, for example, if we use Bind Foe at level 1, we will just do them in reps. All they need to do is wait a turn, they can break out. 2nd level, it will put them to sleep, which is a mind effect, and then will paralyze them. Because of sleep, if you attack them, they wake up. And then at the highest level, it will paralyze them, so even if you attack them, they won't break out of being bound. Going on to level 3, we have learnt Haste, which basically doubles the action points for a character, increases the duration, and becomes mass haste at level 3. You'll see a lot of this going on in combat, because it is probably the most useful spells, especially if you're fighting, and I'll be showing that off when we do it. Alternatively, you can use Slow, Slow causes characters to act every other turn, so they miss 1 turn out of 2, and as it increases in level, it affects more enemies. So we will have, and then we get the spells that we can learn but we don't know yet. We have, because at level 5 we can learn Ice Lances. This is a damage dealing. This is another damage dealing spell. It's an improvement over Bolt of Fire that does damage to a number of targets, and it will do more damage as it increases in level. We have at 5. We will also learn Unlock Doors. So, is basically a way of magically unlocking doors. Kind of remove the use of needing tools to unlock doors if you've got magic, and can also unlock magically locked doors. So you do kind of need it. We have Create Illusions, which is similar to Call Beast, except you have the illusions. The illusions cause damage as normal, but when they are hit for any amount of damage, they are dispelled. So it's not quite summoning, but it's somewhere in between. And that's at level 6. At level 6 we also learn Farsight, which allows us to basically reveal an area of the auto map around us. Can only use it indoor except at the highest level, where it can work outside in the outdoor area. So that's useful for mapping. At level 8 we get Lightning Spray. Spells lightning at your foes, which does more damage at higher levels. So that's like Ice Lances, but lightning. You have Dispel at level 9. We have Dispel Barrier, so we can basically remove magical barriers. There's fire barriers and force barriers, and as it gets stronger, you can remove more of those barriers. Level 9 we also get Summon Aid, which is basically like Create Illusions, except it's the monsters stay. At level 11 you get a very powerful boost, which is called Beast Ceremony, which helps in combat, but it can only be cast outside of combat apparently. It says it can be cast any time, but only when there's no enemies in sight. So basically, as long as you can't see the enemy, generally you're not in combat, you can cast Beast Ceremony. You have Fire Blast at level 13, which is basically a much more improved version of Firebolt and Lightning Spray, etc. Because what it does is it fires multiple bursts of fire with a lot of damage, and both the damage and the number of targets increases as you level up. Then we come down to basically the 3 arcane spells, which are the highest level of mage spells. You have Arcane Summon, which summons a huge creature to help you. You have Arcane Shield, which pretty much makes you invulnerable at highest levels, and is a form. And then you've got the ultimate in damage dealing, Arcane Blow. So you can attack. So basically, you can attack, you can protect, and you can summon creatures at the arcane level, as well as doing the other useful stuff that arcane spells do. Now we go back to Rosalia, and we do pre-spells. Just like with mage spells, spells have a minimum level to cast, and you learn all the ones that you can cast to start with. So if you're starting with a shaman, where you have a little bit of magic and a little bit of priest, but not as high as one where you're focused, you will get access to both spell sets, but you will know a less number of spells to start with, and therefore have to spend more learning. And for pre-spells, you have the basic healing spell. Healing. There you go, it's simple. And the higher the level, Like Mage Spells, Priest Spells have levels, found in the same way. You can learn up to level 2 by buying it, and find level 3 out in the game somehow. Healing basically restores damage. Curing basically cures poison. At second level, it will also cure disease, and at third level, it can cure acid. So it's worth noting that at the beginning you can only cure poison. I mean, Battle Rage is a good spell for blessing a target in combat, increasing their ability to deal damage. And you'll probably see us using that quite a bit on, say, Philip, if not also Melissa. Basically, they deal more damage and hit more often. And also, it can haste the target. So it's worth noting that if at high level, you can use that just for your priest and save the using haste for your wizard, if that's the way you want to go. Then we have a defensive spell in shielding, which basically reduces the defense, protecting them from energy and making them harder to hit. It's more or less the opposite of Battle Rage, so great for your tanks. You'll then get Repel Spirit, which is turn undead. It affects more targets at higher levels. Plus, at its higher level, it can affect demons. But it is essentially what you would get as turn undead or divine channeling in D&D. And then we have Smite, level 4, highest level. So don't expect your Shamans or your Hedge Wizards to know this straight away. But it fires a powerful bolt of ice and is a basic combat spell for the priest. And as it goes up, it will deal more damage and fires more bolts. The spells that we don't know, well, you can summon Shades at level 5. So basically that's like Cool Beast. You have Safe Travel, which is basically it protects you as you move over hazardous floors. It starts with swamps, which can poison you and otherwise cause damage, but then you can learn to walk over lava and other damaging floors. So that's worth noting. Unshackle Mind is a spell to cure things like charming, paralysis, and sleep and various other abilities like that. Basically curing more powerful versions as it increases in levels. That's at level 6. Also at level 6 you can learn Mass Healing. That's the mass version of the healing spell. You can also learn the mass version of the curing spell. At level 8 you have the Sanctuary spell. Basically, Sanctuary protects you from being attacked. You don't get attacked and provides other defensive benefits, which is useful if you're not actually getting involved in attacking someone. So it's good for at that level. It's good for the priest and maybe for your mage if you don't want them in combat. You have Divine Fire at level 10, which is another attacking spell for the priest. This does fire and basically it gets more powerful as it goes up in levels and is pretty much the most powerful priest spell that deals damage. Also at level 10 you can learn Control Foes, which starts by confusing some enemies and then increasing the effects so you can eventually charm them and control them. So you can turn their enemies against each other. Then at level 12 you get Return Life. This is what the Balm of Life is for. If you learn how to make the Balm of Life, because you will need it each time you cast this spell, and it will basically return people who return them to life. It starts off that you can, at first level, that you can as a more of a stone to flesh scroll as opposed to Raise Dead. At second level it's Raise Dead, and then it's Resurrection at its highest level. Then we have the 3 highest spells of the priests, the divine spells. You have Divine Warrior, which makes basically, it's like Beast Rage but souped up, basically. So we'll be looking to do that. Then you've got Divine Restoration, which heals all damage and cures all effects. But more importantly, as it goes up in levels, you can even heal above the normal maximum for damage in that combat. Finally, we have at 18, and this is the highest. I checked the Arcane Blow was at 18. Priest is at 18. Is Divine Host, where you can summon powerful shades, and unlike the Summon Shade spell, basically as it goes up in levels, you actually summon more spirits. So the priest doesn't have a highly effective offensive spell, rather they are very good at healing and blessing, but also with a bit of summoning. So whereas the mage is good at defense, summoning and fire. So you can sort of see the specialists for the priest spell versus the mage spells going on there. And with that, I think we will save it here. It's been an hour and 12 minutes explaining most of what's going on. We haven't actually moved. This is the game as we go on. And we're going to save it here because now that you know how the game works, I will show you how the game plays. And we will do that by exploring Fort Avernum. And we will learn this game together. Although I have seen a sort of walkthrough for this game, and I know sort of the map, I have not paid enough attention to it or have it printed out next to me to know anything other than a rough guide to how I'm going to approach the game. So, I mean, a lot of the secrets and the stuff will probably be as new to me as they are to anyone who's watching this and doesn't know about the series. Okay, so first we're going to save the game, and what's interesting is you get to see, and this is fun, we have save files using the Windows save dialog box. Yes, brilliant. Okay, and we will save it as LP1. Now that we've got a save, we can also do a quick save to the save file. Now what I will probably do is have a separate save file that basically I will quick save to, that I will load before each session, so you won't have to see me do it, and you'll only see me when I save the end of each episode. So until next time, this has been Vane, not so much playing as describing Avernum. So if you like what you see in here, be sure to like, subscribe, share and comment. There will be a lot of reading in this series, so you can expect a lot of input from me. So if you like what you see in here, be sure to like, subscribe, share and comment. And until next time, goodbye.